My perfect marriage fell apart the moment I discovered my wife had been having an affair for an entire year. We got married when we were 25. Now we're both 38. We met in college, got married, and everything seemed great. We both finished school, got good jobs, and started our life together. Finances were never a problem since we both earned well. She worked at her father's small business, while I was employed at a large company. A few years in, my boss unexpectedly left, and I was the only one who knew how to run the department. I got promoted and was given a significant salary bump, bonuses, benefits, the full package. By 28, I was making nearly 3 times more than my wife. That same year, she gave birth to our first daughter, and 2 years later, to our second. Working for her father gave her flexibility, but about 5 years ago, her father passed away unexpectedly. This left my wife and her mother with a tough decision: sell the business or run it themselves. My mother-in-law had no idea how to manage a company, so my wife stepped up and took over. She proved to be just as capable as her father and grew the business substantially, eventually earning more than I did. I was proud of her. Going from employee to business owner is no small feat. However, our daughters began to suffer from the fact that both parents were rarely home. We discussed who should stay with them, and she said, "Your company will be fine without you. Mine might collapse." So I agreed, left my job, and became a stay-at-home dad. I've done everything, taking care of the girls, cooking, cleaning, fixing things, and supporting my wife in every way. I made sure she came home to a warm, peaceful environment. Everything seemed fine until about a year ago. My wife, who once appreciated my support deeply, became irritable and dismissive. She'd say things like, "Do you even do anything? Maybe get a real job?" That hurt. I had sacrificed my career to raise our kids and keep the household running, something that should be just as respected. Our intimacy dwindled. She stopped initiating anything, and when I tried, she would reject me, saying she wasn't in the mood. I assumed it was due to stress or the pandemic, and I tried harder to make her happy, but nothing worked. Last week, our oldest daughter had a softball game. I prepped everything, and we went together. During the game, I wanted to record a video for my parents, who live out of state and rarely see their grandkids. I had forgotten my phone, so I asked to use hers. She'd been glued to it all day, so I figured it wouldn't hurt for her to take a break. She handed it to me and went to get drinks and snacks. While recording, a notification popped up from an app one didn't recognize. I opened it and couldn't believe my eyes. My wife had been chatting with a much younger coworker, 8 years her junior. They had exchanged explicit messages, photos, and videos, and were talking about how great their time together was. Then, they started talking about me. He called me a loser who couldn't provide for his family, and she agreed with him. I was crushed and furious. I heard her coming back, so I quickly closed the app and continued filming. On the way home, I stayed silent. At night, she tried to talk, but I couldn't. Later in bed, maybe because she hadn't seen the guy in a while, she tried to be intimate. I said I wasn't in the mood. She snapped, "If you're going to act like this, go sleep on the couch." I got up and left, and I've been sleeping there ever since. I don't know what to do now. I have no idea where to even begin. She was everything to me. Our daughters are my world. And now it all feels like it's falling apart. Any advice would be greatly appreciated because, frankly, I really need it. I forgot to mention that I took screenshots of the messages and saved them on my phone. I have solid evidence. First update. Thank you all for the advice. First of all, I have all the proof, messages, photos, videos, everything. Secondly, I do not own my wife's company. It's split 50-50 between her and her mother. And third, I simply can't sleep in our bed anymore. I've been sleeping in the guest room every night and plan to continue doing so. Now to the important part. I've decided to file for divorce. This morning, I called a law firm in a different city to avoid any local leaks. Fortunately, someone had canceled an appointment, and I was able to be seen right after dropping off my daughters. The lawyer I met was excellent. I showed him the evidence, and he said that, thankfully, with such solid documentation, my wife will likely walk away with nothing after the divorce. Considering I left my job to raise our children while she was rarely home and having an affair, the court will most likely side with me. The lawyer explained that I'm entitled to alimony and child support. The house will remain with me, and my wife will be required to cover its expenses while our daughters are living there. He also mentioned I could request additional support because I'm currently considered out of the workforce, and this money would help me pursue education or find a new job. Some of you were right. The lawyer also advised me not to get a job until the divorce is finalized. He said, "If you take a job now, you could lose a significant portion of the financial support you're entitled to." He asked if I wanted full custody. I told him I wouldn't mind if my wife saw the girls occasionally on weekends, but that primary custody should remain with me. He said, "Since she brought her affair partner into the shared home, you can ask for almost anything. Legally, she endangered the children by exposing them to a potentially unsafe environment, and that will carry weight in court. I plan to seek full custody with visitation rights limited to once a week or twice a month. I'll also set strict conditions. No other men should be around my daughters. If I find out otherwise, she'll be facing serious legal consequences." The attorney strongly advised me to stay calm and avoid conflict until the legal papers are ready, and she is officially served with a notice of eviction from our home, which should happen next week. He warned, "I understand this is hard, but keep your mouth shut until the process is over. After the divorce is final, you can say whatever you want, but until then, stay quiet." He also gave clear instructions: act normal, no drama, no confrontations, sleep separately, and absolutely no intimacy. When I asked why, he just said, "Trust me and do what I say." I went home, made dinner, and have been acting as if everything is fine. I will stay composed until she is officially served next week. The lawyer also recommended that I get tested for STIs and take a paternity test. When I asked why, he said affairs like this are rarely isolated incidents. That shook me deeply. Second update: I feel overwhelmed and emotionally exhausted. I discussed my posts with my lawyer, and he said it's okay to continue sharing updates as long as they're brief and not too specific. So this will be short. First, I've done the tests. Thankfully, I'm healthy, no infections. And now, the part many of you probably wondered about: the paternity results. Would I still consider myself their father regardless of the outcome? Absolutely. But I'm relieved and happy to say that I am, indeed, their biological father. I never imagined I'd be in a position to even question it, but here we are. Now, regarding my soon-to-be ex-wife, she no longer lives with us. Since she moved out, the court has granted me full temporary custody, which may become permanent. More details will follow, but the key point is that my daughters are with me. My attorney handled the eviction in a fully legal and proper manner, ensuring everything was done by the book. It wasn't pleasant, and I'll save the details for another time. She was served the divorce papers at her workplace, and from what I heard, it was quite harsh. But again, I'll share the details later. My daughters are aware of what's going on. The older one knows we're getting divorced, and one of her friends went through the same thing with her parents, so she's seen the emotional toll it can take. Now she doesn't want us to separate. She cries and begs me to bring her mom back home. I'm planning to arrange therapy for both girls to help them understand the situation better. The younger one just misses her mom and wants her to come back. It breaks my heart and makes me feel like a terrible father. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just stayed in the marriage for their sake, even with the betrayal, just to keep the family together. But I know I can't do that. There are moments when I consider suggesting an open relationship and waiting until the girls are grown, but deep down, I know it wouldn't work. They would sense that their parents don't love each other anymore, and that would only make things worse. As for my ex, she's currently living with her mother. My mother-in-law called and asked to meet. I agreed. She didn't ask many questions and said we'd talk later, but she pleaded with me not to cut her off from her granddaughters. I told her, "You're a wonderful and loving grandmother. As long as you can keep your relationship with the girls separate from what's happening between me and your daughter, I see no reason to limit your contact with them." She thanked me. That's where things stand for now. My ex-wife keeps calling and messaging, trying to get clarity on what's happening between us. Per my lawyer's advice, all communication goes through a monitored app and only concerns the children. I'll continue to share updates, and when everything is finalized, I'll write one full post with all the details I can't reveal right now. Third update. I spent Thanksgiving with my soon-to-be ex-wife and mother-in-law. I did it solely for the sake of my daughters, and my lawyer ensured that the meeting remained focused on the children, not on reconciliation. Before the holiday, I met with my mother-in-law to talk about how we'll continue to cooperate for the girls. During our conversation, she shared something I never knew about my ex. Apparently, in high school, she was cheated on by a boyfriend from a family with a bad reputation. One day, she caught him with another girl, and it shocked my mother-in-law. In college, my wife had a few other relationships, but my mother-in-law said she could tell they wouldn't last. When she met me, however, she thought her daughter had finally found the right person. She sincerely apologized for her daughter's actions and promised she would not make the divorce process more difficult. A few days before Thanksgiving, she invited me and the girls to dinner. I immediately asked, "Will she be there?" She said, "Yes." I replied, "Then I can't come." She understood but asked me to consider spending the holiday together for the children. She added, "I know you have a lawyer. Check with him. If he says it's a bad idea, I'll respect that." I asked my lawyer and he said, "Let your wife know through the app that this is strictly for the children to avoid any confusion." So I did. My ex had already been messaging me, pleading to see the girls, and they really wanted to see her too. I decided to swallow my pride and go for the sake of my daughters. It was incredibly awkward. My wife hugged the girls, then tried to hug and kiss me. I stepped aside and hugged my mother-in-law instead. The whole evening, my wife acted as if we were still a family, trying to make conversation. I only responded with short answers and helped my mother-in-law with dinner and cleaning. Being religious, she wanted to say a prayer before the meal. Even though I'm not religious, I agreed out of respect. My wife sat next to me and held our daughter's hand. When she tried to take mine, I pulled away. Maybe that seemed harsh, but I don't want her touching me. During dinner, she kept pretending everything was fine, talking about Christmas and family vacations. It became clear she seriously thinks we'll be spending the holidays together as a family. That's when I realized going to this dinner was a mistake. After we ate, I helped the girls wash up, cleaned the kitchen, did the dishes, and got ready to leave. The girls wanted to stay and watch a movie with their mom, the one we used to watch together. I said okay. My wife tried to sit close to me on the couch. I moved to a chair. The whole time, my mother-in-law was visibly annoyed with her. After the movie, the girls fell asleep. I carried them to the car and came back for my things. Then my wife, crying, grabbed my arm and begged me to give her another chance, saying she wanted to fix our family and that she was truly sorry. But before I could respond, my mother-in-law grabbed her daughter by the hair, no joke, and pulled her back. Then she calmly turned to me and said, "Good night." After that, she started yelling at her daughter. I told my lawyer everything, and he confirmed that I hadn't done anything that could be interpreted as an attempt at reconciliation. My wife kept calling and texting, begging me to give her another chance, but I just ignored her. I only speak to her when it concerns our daughters. I assume Christmas will be a similar situation, so I'll consult my lawyer again to decide if I should go. Fourth update. This will be a short one, but the situation with my daughters has gotten worse. They had 2 therapy sessions this week. The first went well. They came out calmer than usual. After speaking with the psychologist, I felt she truly understood them. But the second session was a nightmare. The therapist explained to the girls, in age-appropriate terms, that the reason for our divorce was their mother's betrayal. I knew they'd have to learn the truth eventually, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. When I came to pick them up, they ran to me in tears, hugging me tightly and saying how much they loved me. That's not the outcome I was hoping for. I asked the psychologist why she told them. She said, "They know you're getting divorced. They see how cold you are with their mother. They're observant, and they want to understand why this is happening." I tried to avoid the subject, but they won't make progress in therapy unless they're told the truth. I won't go into details about exactly what she said, but now they know their mom was unfaithful. I believe my older daughter might be able to process this over time, but I'm not sure about the younger one. When we got home, they wouldn't let go of me. They cried all evening. I ordered them food, put on their favorite movies, and we all stayed in my bedroom. When they finally fell asleep, I went to the bathroom and broke down in tears. My soon-to-be ex doesn't even realize the pain she's caused our children. I don't know how to handle this. The therapist suggested short-term medication to help the girls adjust to their new reality. I declined. She respected my decision and said it was only a suggestion. She isn't authorized to prescribe medication, but recommended speaking to a pediatrician who might diagnose and prescribe something if needed. Still, I don't want to medicate my children. I want them to process everything naturally. At least there won't be problems with Christmas now. My daughters have turned away from their mother. I learned that my older daughter said she never wants to see her again. The younger one echoed that sentiment, as she often follows her sister's lead, but I think she might mean it too. I was shocked. I told her, "You don't hate her. You're angry, but that's not the same." To which my older daughter said, "No, she doesn't love us." Then she broke down crying in my arms and eventually fell asleep. The younger one did the same. That's my reality now. Fifth update. The girls are doing better. They're still seeing the same therapist and seem to be slowly recovering. They told me they don't hate their mother anymore, but made it clear they're not ready to see her and probably won't be for a while. Those were their words, not mine. We'll see how things progress. My ex-wife found out that the girls now know the truth. She tried calling them, and they answered, but since then, she's been a bit more respectful of our boundaries. I think she's finally starting to understand the damage she caused. Now about her affair partner. I already knew he was a terrible person, but recent events left me speechless. Someone asked if he had a wife. I didn't know. So I checked the emergency contact list from my wife's company and found his contact info. I called the number, and a woman named Emily answered. It turns out he's married, with a young child. I told her everything. At first, she didn't believe me and hung up. But later, she called back and asked to meet. We met, and I showed her all the evidence. Emily asked to sit in my car. As soon as I shut the door, she broke down crying, repeating, "How could he do this to me? What did I do wrong?" I told her, "You didn't do anything. This isn't your fault. Then I gave her my lawyer's contact info. She asked, "How long had it been going on?" I replied, "About a year, maybe a bit more." At that moment, she suddenly shifted from sorrow to anger. I didn't understand what was happening until she took off her wig. It turned out to be a wig. She looked at me and said, "I just beat cancer." After giving birth to their child, Emily began having health issues, and doctors discovered a tumor. Over the past year, she went through 2 surgeries, chemotherapy, and medication. She looked healthy now, and I never would have guessed she had been seriously ill. She told me she was now in remission, but for the past 2 years, she and her husband had not been intimate. During the pregnancy, I felt awful, and then cancer completely broke me down. I was bald, swollen from medications, and nothing like the person I used to be. But I tried so hard. I thought that now that I'm better, I could be a wife again. I was planning to surprise him, but it turns out my caring and loving husband had already found another outlet for his attention. Emily broke down again, saying her child would now grow up in a broken family. I tried to comfort her, but then she tried to initiate something more. I immediately stopped her and said, "No, you're not in the right state of mind. This isn't the right thing to do." She thanked me for being honest, asked for all the evidence, and then left for home. Since then, we've messaged a few times. We're in very similar situations, so I think we'll stay in touch. And yes, thanks to those who suggested I check if he had a wife. I wouldn't have thought of that myself. 6th update. People asked if I spent Christmas with Emily. Yes, I did. Honestly, it was wonderful. The whole day was just perfect. I had placed Santa's gifts for the girls ahead of time. It's probably the last year my older daughter still believes, so I wanted to make it special. I set everything up while they were sleeping. About 15 minutes later, they woke up and screamed, excited that Santa had come. I dragged myself out of bed and followed them. As they opened their presents, they were thrilled. After that, I put on a movie, and one of the girls curled up next to me and fell asleep. I got up, made some coffee, and soon the younger one woke up and said she was hungry. I gave her an apron, and we made breakfast together. Then the older one woke up, and we all had breakfast. The girls played with their presents all day, and it truly made me happy. In the evening, I was supposed to take them to their mothers. Normally I'm firm about sticking to the schedule, but after everything that's happened, I've become a little softer. The girls reluctantly started getting ready and told me they didn't want to go. I said, "Your mom loves you." The therapist had told me that for their healthy development, I need to support their relationship with their mother. She also warned that if I don't, my wife might use it against me in court. The therapist spoke to my wife too and told her directly, "You betrayed your husband, and it's clear he is the primary caregiver. You're going to have to work hard to rebuild their trust and love." I also told the girls, "Don't punish your grandmother for your mother's mistakes. Go for her sake." They agreed. When we arrived, I called my mother-in-law. She came out to get their things, and the girls stayed overnight. My mother-in-law asked if that would be okay. I checked with my lawyer, and he said one night is fine, as long as it doesn't become frequent or extended. I also told the girls, "If you want to come home, just call me, and I'll come get you." As I was leaving, my wife came outside. I don't know what her mother told her, but she clearly hadn't expected it. She looked confused, while her mother gave her a stern look. I think she wanted to say something but just looked at me with tears in her eyes and waved. I just drove away. I had left dinner in the oven and set it to stay warm for Emily, who was coming over later. When she arrived, her child wasn't with her. I asked, "Where's your little one?" She said, "My in-laws wanted to spend Christmas with him, and so did his father. Legally, they worked it out through lawyers similarly to how I did." I just nodded. Emily looked beautiful. We had dinner and talked about life and our pasts, getting to know each other better. After dinner, we moved to the couch, started a movie, and kept talking. Then I brought out a bottle of wine. I rarely drink, but I usually make an exception on Christmas. Emily asked, "Can I have a little?" I asked, "Are you sure it's okay for you?" She replied, "Yes." I poured her a glass. Our conversation shifted from past events to hobbies, and then to current challenges. We shed a few tears, then laughed and joked. After 2 bottles, quite unusual for me, the conversation gradually turned to more personal topics, like preferences and emotional needs. We discovered we had a lot in common in that regard. Emily said, "Your wife made a huge mistake." I replied, "So did your husband." I know some people advised me to respond when she first showed interest, but I didn't want her making decisions based purely on emotion. This time I said, "You can take off your wig if you want. You look amazing without it. You're beautiful with short hair." She took it off, teared up, and thanked me. We kept talking and then continued watching the movie together, sitting close. It's important to mention that my soon-to-be ex-wife used to find it relaxing when I gently massaged her chest during hugs. I did it so often that I didn't even realize when I began doing the same with Emily. She said, "That feels nice." I was startled, quickly moved my hands away, and apologized, saying, "Sorry, I didn't realize I was doing that." She replied, "It's okay. Actually, you can continue. It's calming." So I did, and from that moment, things started to develop between us. The next morning, we had breakfast and took a shower. I asked her, "Did you plan this?" She laughed and said, "No, but every woman always has a backup outfit just in case." As she was leaving, she asked, "Did you feel something last night?" I honestly said yes, but added that we should focus on ourselves and our children and make sure what we're feeling is real, not just emotions brought on by everything we've been through. She agreed and said we'd figure it out in time. Before leaving, she kissed me on the cheek, thanked me for a wonderful evening, and said, "I'll text you later." I went to pick up the girls. Turned out they had a good time. They said their mom behaved appropriately most of the time. So yes, I just finished making dinner, and we're spending the evening together. Thanks to everyone. These posts have been a kind of therapy for me. 7th update. Life has been very busy lately, so this update will be short. Also, I don't blame anyone who thinks this story is fake. The internet is full of people who make things up or stir drama. The girls are doing much better. Thanks to therapy and various activities, they've started to recover. Of course, there are still tough moments, but overall things are improving. As for Emily and me, we still talk almost every day, but nothing physical has happened since that night. We don't regret what happened, but we understand it wasn't the best decision. Now, about my soon-to-be ex-wife, she kept trying to get me to talk to her for a few weeks after Christmas, but now it's nearly stopped. As my lawyer said, he's aware of everything, and soon the official meetings will begin. She's finally realized that I've truly made up my mind, and she won't be able to change it. I'm sure they'll try to offer reconciliation at some point, but that's not going to happen. She still occasionally sends messages or calls, trying to convince me otherwise, but I just ignore it. Now for the most unexpected part, my wife's affair partner was arrested. I can't share too many details yet, but from what I understand, he came to her workplace and caused a scene. They got into a heated argument, and when she threatened to call the police, he hit her. Her co-workers intervened and restrained him. The police arrived and took him into custody. She filed a report against him. I'm sure he'll now hire a lawyer and might file a counterclaim about their workplace relationship, but I don't have any details yet. My mother-in-law told me about it and said, "If you want, You can come see her." Apparently, he gave her a black eye and split her lip. But my mother-in-law just shrugged and said, "That's karma." So I haven't seen my wife since, and neither have the girls. Unless something extraordinary happens, you probably won't hear more from me until the first official legal meeting. Unfortunately, that's where the story ends. The author never posted any more updates. Share in the comments what you think happened next. I believe things worked out well for him. If there had been more drama, he probably would have posted asking for advice. But since everything seems to have stabilized, he likely just didn't feel the need. You know how it goes. When things are chaotic, you seek help, but when life smooths out, it's easy to stop sharing. And now, on to the next story, of course from your favorite series about betrayal. I found out from my daughter that my wife had been seeing a man she met at the supermarket. Here's what I did. My wife, 33, was an expert shopper. Her mother and grandmother were extremely materialistic, so she learned from a young age how to find good deals and shop smart. That's why I, 37, usually didn't go shopping with her. She could spend 6 hours or more in stores. Every Saturday, she would leave home at 6 a.m., go to the farmer's market, then the mall, have lunch there, and continue shopping. We were married for 8 years, and that routine never changed. Sometimes she would take our 5-year-old daughter with her. I always thought she was the most reliable person and never suspected she didn't deserve my trust. Over time, she started taking our daughter less and less, often leaving before she even woke up, giving her no choice. I asked her why, and she explained that this way, she could get home faster because our daughter would often get tired before she was done shopping. It sounded reasonable, but it still bothered me. Our daughter loved going shopping with her. After that, our daughter started asking every time if she could go, but my wife kept saying no. Instead, she'd either do something with her the next day or buy her something nice, but it just wasn't the same. For a while, I chose to ignore the situation, but eventually I realized it was time to talk. I told my wife that this Saturday, she absolutely had to take our daughter with her. She wasn't happy about it, and I couldn't believe it was such an inconvenience for her. In the end, she agreed and did take our daughter with her. But the very next day, on Sunday, she went out alone again. Sundays were usually our family time, and we would practice meditation together. Our daughter always turned it into a fun game, trying not to be seen during the practice. When my wife came home that day, she was in a great mood, acting as if everything was perfectly normal. Then our daughter asked a question that changed everything. She said, "Mom, did you see the man with the doll today?" My wife laughed nervously and replied, "No, he only goes to the market on Saturdays." I asked, "Who is that?" Before she could answer, our daughter said, "That's the man Mommy kissed yesterday." I stared at her, then looked at my wife. She realized a conversation was unavoidable. After she settled our daughter with some toys, I pulled her aside into another room. I questioned her until she could no longer come up with excuses. She tried to say our daughter was confused, but I knew that wasn't true. Our daughter was very articulate. In fact, she had looked at me in a way that made it clear she understood something wrong had happened and wanted me to know. Eventually, my wife admitted the truth. She said this man was just a kind person she had gotten to know over the years of going to the market. He had developed feelings for her, and she didn't want to hurt him, so she began kissing him. I couldn't believe she thought that was acceptable. I told her she had already broken my trust by hiding even the fact that they were friends. I have a right to know who she interacts with, especially for our safety. And now I realized she had been close to this man for years, introduced him to our daughter, and had been physically affectionate with him. I looked her in the eyes and asked if she had been intimate with this man or anyone else. She blushed, looked away, and said, "No, How much more obvious could her lie have been? I kept looking at her, but she tried to change the subject and asked if we could leave the room. I said no. I demanded she tell me the truth because her behavior was making everything worse. Her mouth went dry, she began to swallow nervously, then ran to the bathroom and threw up. I told her she should confess. It would be a relief, but she acted like she had nothing else to say. I then said I didn't want her going to the Saturday market anymore. She got angry, saying that was one of the few joys she had left in life. I replied that she had ruined that herself by becoming involved with some man behind my back. She described him as an older man, and I started to wonder if she said that deliberately, so I picture a lonely old man and not worry too much. But I wasn't naive. For a month, she didn't go anywhere on weekends, but eventually, she found a reason to leave the house again. This time she took our daughter with her, perhaps to prove there was nothing suspicious. They came back with shopping bags, so it seemed like they had truly been to the store, not the market. Still, it sickened me that this had become a source of tension between us. Every time she left the house, I couldn't help but wonder if she was going to see that same man. On the day she first went out alone again, I decided to follow her. She didn't go to the market, she went to someone's house. Even before I confirmed it, I knew whose home it was. I felt it in my gut. It was the house of that same man. I knocked on the door shortly after she entered. He opened it, looking surprised and confused. He asked why I was there. I asked him directly if he was the man from the market with the doll. He covered his mouth in shock, then asked if I was her husband. I said, yes, and immediately called out her name. My wife came out, and he told her to leave. Then he turned to me and said that she had told him she was a widow. My heart stopped. Everything inside me froze. My wife ran out of the house, as if she were the one who had the right to be angry, and tried to get into her car. I took her keys, ran to my car, and locked myself inside. Before I returned her keys, minus the house key, she told her parents I had thrown her out for no reason, and they let her stay with them. They even arranged for a moving truck to collect her belongings. When they came with her to talk, I told them the entire truth. It seems they scolded her harshly because from that day on, she despised me for telling them. Just 5 weeks later, she moved out from her parents' house and started staying with friends. The divorce ended in my favor, and now she is only partly involved in our daughter's life. That's the end of it. I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the comments about this story. Thanks for watching till the end. Check out our previous video here. Wishing you all the best.